We have Kevin Maney today. Thank you for being here today.
Great. Thanks for having me.
Please tell us about yourself and about your new book.
Oh, well, thanks. I have a whole career as being a journalist and author. I've written about the technology industry for decades.
Okay.
and a book that came out 10 years ago, it's called Play Bigger, and that introduced this concept that we call category design. And that book became an enormous success and became part of the tech ecosystem. So basically, it's a strategic framework
Right.
for how to identify and create new market categories. So the book became such a success that we set up a firm to actually do what we wrote about. And so for the past 10 years, I've had this firm called Category Design Advisors. We've worked with 50 odd companies through the years, helping them see and identify a market category that they can create and frame it in a way that makes people understand what it is, set the rules around it so that others who come into that space have to follow their lead, and give them the best chance of winning that category over time. Because as it turns out, that in generally speaking, in most market categories, the category leader takes most of the economics of that category.
Right.
And there's a number two that's a long follower, and then usually a few companies you can't name behind that. So basically the idea is, if you're a founder or you're a CEO, why wouldn't you do everything you can to be that company that is the category winner? And our methodology kind of gives you a good chance of doing that.
And could you give us examples of these categories?
Yeah, a big one that we worked with was a division of LinkedIn. LinkedIn has a division called Sales Solutions, which is a version of LinkedIn that is geared towards salespeople.
Oh.
And they approached us. The division was 10 years old and was starting to get a little stale, like they hadn't really changed the product much in all that time, and competitors were nipping at their heels. And basically, they needed a new North Star, a new, where are we going next with this? And so as part of the process, the initial thing was how do we really understand what's going on with the sales profession? Because it's changed so much in 10 years. And sales people were be frustrated with all the new tools that were coming out, and they were toggling between 5 or 10 different tools every day, and people weren't picking up their phones anymore and answering email. So there was all these things that had changed. So once we understood what had changed in the sales profession, we understood that the way to sell today was really to have these deep relationships. And LinkedIn had the most data that could be available to kind of create those relationships. So as we discussed this, we kind of saw that there was a need out there for something we call deep sales, of being able to create these ongoing relationships with people so you had a better chance of reaching them when you wanted to sell something. So by the time we saw that as working with the leadership team, we put together this, we call it a POV, which is kind of a narrative story that captures what the problem is out there, what the sales profession is facing, what a solution should look like, deeper relationships, and how do you do that, and why LinkedIn was the one that could bring this to the market, because we had the data, we had the relationships, and so you put all that together, and the sales solutions division was the worst performing, slowest growing division of LinkedIn at the time. And when they implemented this concept called deep sales, which actually gave them a story to tell, it gave them a direction for the product to be built, gave them a way to talk about what they do, the division went from the slowest growing division to the fastest growing division in the course of the next 2 years. So this is what this can do for a company. It gives the company a rallying point. It gives them some alignment around the whole leadership team, around where we are and where we're going, and it can be a really powerful thing to help companies grow and scale.
Absolutely. And today's London Stock Exchange event today, have you worked with companies from UK in the past?
We have. We've had I don't know, over the years, 3 or 4 clients in the UK.
Okay.
And an AI company called Signal AI, which is actually doing really well these days.
Okay.
Another company called Tellurium, which actually is probably doing really well right now because it was automating price quotes for energy resources like oil and
I see.
gas, which bizarrely enough was not the case before Tellurium came around. Like you basically were operating on WhatsApp messages and phone calls, and so I imagine with energy markets being crazy right now, that Tellurium's doing quite well. So we've worked with a handful of companies in the UK, and interestingly, because we're here in the US, about US companies possibly going public in the London Stock Exchange or going over to other parts of the world. These were mostly companies that started in the UK, and we're looking for a way to expand out into the world from there.
I see. Could you tell us a little more about your book or one of the chapters that you really like?
Sure. Well, so the new book is called The Category Creation Formula.
Yeah.
And it's called that for a reason, because as we were working with companies over the years and looking for new ways and better ways to help them think through this concept of category creation, category design, and we kept like seeing patterns and trying to simplify, and we ended up coming up with this very simple formula that you could put up on a whiteboard in a room and get a conversation going. So to explain it briefly, the formula is context plus missing plus innovation gives you a new market category.
Okay.
And it's a different way than companies usually talk about what they do. So almost like the LinkedIn example, right? So we say, let's first have a conversation about the context around your target audience. What's happening to them? What's changing? What new problems are being created by technology or geopolitics or who knows what, right? Or for that matter, are things happening or around technology, for instance, that is allowing you to solve an old problem that never was solved adequately before? But if you have that deep conversation around the context around your target audience, you start to be able to see what's now missing. What is the problem that's not being solved? What is the problem that's not inadequately being solved? Or the problem that perhaps your audience doesn't even realize yet that exists?
Right.
And if you can see that missing in this new context, it becomes very easy to see the innovation to build, the product to build, to solve for that missing in this new context. And if you go through those steps, there's two interesting things that happens. One is that you almost invariably see a category to create that matters, because now you've actually anchored it in what the market needs, rather than a product that you dreamed of.
I see.
And the secondary effect is that it gives you a story to tell, because if you can go into whether you're going into investors or you're going into customers, and you can say, look, I understand what's happening to you. And if you could say that and say then, and I understand what frustrates you or what the problem is that you can't solve. If you start with that, whether it's with customers or investors, you have them in a way that you don't if you just go in and say, here's my product, and you figure out what to do with it.
Right.
And if you go through those steps in that part of the story and then say, and here's the innovation that here's the product that should exist no matter whether we do it or anybody does it, to fix this problem in this new context. And then your target is willing to say, so tell me more about what your product is and who you are and why you're bringing this to market. It's a very powerful way to go to market.
Wow.
So you get these results from just talking through the formula that way.
What a great way to approach the deep relationship building that you were talking about.
Yeah.
And wow, could you share a little bit about yourself, like where you're from, what are some of your hobbies, if you're somehow connected to, let's say, charity organization or something else?
Sure, yeah. Well, I mean, so I started out as a journalist, and I've been writing about the tech industry since the 1980s.
Wow.
And for newspapers, magazines,
really?
for everybody that you could name, every publication, and then that turned into books, and I've written more than a dozen books about something about big ideas in tech or biographies of
excellent.
technology leaders, and and so that all kind of plays into the consulting practice, because now I can bring in a whole lot of history and knowledge of what's happened
Absolutely, yeah.
before into the room. Like I'm and especially, as a journalist, you're used to being able to tell people like, well, I that's bullshit. I've heard that thing, So it's helpful when you're sitting there with a leadership team that doesn't want to challenge ideas, and you can say like, look, you're telling me something I've heard 10 times before. Like, this is not going to. So that's and my hobbies. My main hobby is music.
Okay.
I'm in a band in New York called Total Blam Blam. We play around the city.
Oh, really? Oh, that's great.
For my whole life, I've written music. I perform music. So if I could only make as much money at that as I can at the other thing, that's be what I would do. But I can't.
Oh,
I
that's
haven't
great.
found a way to do it. I haven't had my #1 hit yet. So
And you play an instrument or?
yeah, I play guitar and I
Oh,
sing
nice.
and write music. Yeah.
Oh, that's excellent. Wow. Well, thank you so much for being here today. It was a pleasure meeting you and wishing you much luck.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
Pleasure
it.
meeting you.
Thanks.